So, gamers, I will talk about, being a good roommate because, out in college, you're forced to have a roommate, and roughly 8% of the world population has a roommate, which, isn't much, but still a really, really respectable amount. So, there's many reasons to have a roommate. Sometimes you want to save a little money, sometimes you're in college and you're forced to have a roommate. Sometimes, you just want to have someone that's your friend as a roommate. There's a lot of great reasons to have a roommate. But you know, of course, it has its own downfalls. Like you don't really get much personal space to yourself. But for a lot of people, that isn't a big issue, especially in college. You're really in class a lot and constantly out and about, so there's no real issues with it. Or you're working, or all these different things. So having a roommate isn't flawed in that. But one of the biggest issues is being plagued with bad roommates because, well, I'm lucky enough to not face that issue, but there's still a lot of things that your roommate could do to take you off, and I want to make sure that no one else is doing it because it really fucking sucks. Now, in terms of what I have, I like to be a really cleanly person. I like to keep everything super clean, organized, and I live simple. I'm 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 like a basic dude. I like having a very few things on my walls, a few decorations. I like keeping it simple. But my roommate, he's like a huge mess. He keeps his shoes out, all that kind of stuff, and it's really frustrating. And that's like one of the biggest things I want to encourage people to do when they have roommates. If you fucking if your roommate is more cleanly than you, you want to reach the same level they are at, even if it takes a little to work. If you see them doing their dishes every single day, whether it be at night or in the morning, wherever the fuck that is, they're like working their ass off, making sure that their part is clean. You should give them the same amount of respect because they care about that obviously, and they want to make sure everything works well for them in terms of how cleanly the house is or the room is. So you should pay back the same kind of respect, and that goes for a lot of things like personal space and whatnot. Allowing them to have the room to themselves sometimes is always wonderful. I love having a roommate around, especially during COVID times. It makes you feel less lonely. But there's sometimes it's good just to have, the room to yourself. But one of the things I want to talk about having a poor roommate is roommates that kind of limit you to have your friends come over. Like I understand that there's not always appropriate times to have your friends come over. If they're studying, taking a quiz, having a presentation, there's a lot of factors, which means they can't have their friend come over or your friend come over, and no one should be over, and anyone who is over, which should only be you, should be quiet, and that's really respectable. Obviously, you want to fucking let them focus on their shit, but also if it's just because they don't want people over, I think it's really important to confront them about it. And if you're the person who's limiting their ability to have friends over, you should put your values in check because you should let them have a social life. Because maybe you're always at your friend's house as the roommate, and you're like, oh, I don't want people over at my place. But what if your roommate doesn't have that opportunity? What if your roommate doesn't has a friend that lives significantly far, but you guys have a job at the same place and you can come back to your room, which makes it easier. You should really consider the situations other people are in. Specifically for me, I'm on campus. I have a friend that lives significantly a distance off campus, and I enjoy bringing him in camp, like in my room, and I would hate to lose that ability because he's such a great friend to hang out with and to drink with. And that's another thing I'll talk about. There's nothing wrong with having a few drinks, a few beers here and there. It's all fun and games. But as a roommate, your goal is to, well, first you should not limit their drinking unless you know it's a problem. If they're obviously alcoholic, you should step out and try to help them. But when if you have a friend that's drinking, try to make sure that they're safe. If your roommate is drinking, ensure that they're safe. When you come home, just check on them. If you know they've been drinking, be like, hey, you okay? If they're asleep, let them be, but just make sure they're not dead. And have a little bit of tolerance for the cleaning up, which I mentioned earlier. If you know someone was partying or drinking the night before, and you both are okay with that occurring in your household, just give them the space and then let them clean up. You know, it's always a nice surprise if you help your roommate by cleaning up their side every once in a while. Sometimes your friend or roommate could be really stressing. You just don't know what the fuck's going on. And those are like the biggest issues of being a bad roommate. But there's still quite a few other things, like being loud and obnoxious all the time, especially if you're only sharing one room, like some dormitories are. Like, that's not really cool. If you're always on a video call, yelling to family members, don't use your headphones in any situation, please, please, for the love of God, just consider it. It's not that hard just to put in some earbuds and just listen to your own music in your earbuds. If they're out, go ahead, blast whatever the fuck you want. It shouldn't really matter unless the neighbors or people on the floor below you, whatever, are upset. But if you're in your room with your roommate, it's just nice to have, you know, the other person using the headphones. Maybe you're watching a video on your computer, they're watching a video on their computer. If you're using your headphones but they're not, you can still hear the residual sound during silent points, and it could be distracting. If you're doing work, which is especially common during COVID times at your house, and there's watching Netflix, ask them. Stand up for yourself as a roommate that's having bullshit being put against them. And there's plenty of reasons like people don't stand up. Maybe your roommate's scary. Maybe you're just shy. You don't want to make the relationship awkward. But it's gonna be much better for you and him, or her, or whoever your roommate is, if you can go up and stand up for yourself. Because obviously you're gonna be happy. You're gonna be living in a house or a situation that you like. But they're also going to know that it's okay to speak up against things they don't like. You can sit down and be like, hey, I don't like how messy you are. It's like, yeah, they can be like, oh yeah, I understand that, but I also don't like how you're always partying. It's not healthy, and I like to have some silence. And then you can reach a mutual agreement. There's a lot of complex social issues that come with having a roommate. 8% of the world population have roommates. So this isn't something that's like specific to you. So do your research and check, but also know that the most important part is speaking up. Talk about your issues, reach out, just talk to your mate. And the reason I bring this up is because I am blessed to have a great roommate. This guy's fucking awesome. He's out a lot, which gives me the space I like to have. He's honest. He likes to do that. But oh my gosh, does he leave the room a fucking mess? Like I said earlier, I like to keep my space clean. He doesn't. And the other thing that bothers me is, he's like, I don't want you to have friends over, but he brings friends up all the time, or has the opportunity to go to his friend's house or dorm, which is only a few floors below ours. I said, hey, that's just not fucking cool. You need to, with my firsthand experience with this shit, you need to be more open with your roommate, but also make sure that it's fair. You don't want to be getting the short end of the stick. If if your roommate's upset because you play video games at 9 p.m. on a Saturday, be like, dude, stand up for yourself. That's not fucking cool. I want to, have like a beer or two, play some games with my friend, and just fucking relax. Make sure you stand up for yourself with bullshit like that. Thank you.